Okay, so today we're going to talk about two things, hopefully, if time allows. We're going to talk about something called tuples and also something called sets. Now, if you recall from what we have done so far with lists, lists allow us to store a bunch of numbers or a bunch of values or a bunch of items, and we were able to make changes to those items. Without regard, lists really don't care. Lists and tuples don't care how many times a single item occurs in a list. Okay? So with a list, the main difference is with a list and a tuple, items can appear multiple times. A value can appear multiple times in a list. There is no problem with that. Okay? The difference between a list and a tuple is with a tuple, you are not allowed to delete a value from a tuple. You are not allowed to change a value which is in a tuple. Is that clear? So with tuples, there is no mutation. You can't change the items which are in a tuple. You cannot delete them. Are we clear?
Yes.
The other one, which also looks like a list. Brian, I don't know what's happening with your thing. The other item we're going to look at is something called a set. In a set, an item is only allowed to appear once. That's a difference. That's a major difference between lists, tuples, and a set. In a set, as we are going to see, items are only allowed to appear once. Is that clear?
Yes.
In a list, items can appear multiple times. Then you can change the items in a list. You can change the value. You can delete items from a list. That's a list. Tuple, items can appear multiple times. However, you are not allowed to change the items or the values in a tuple. In a set, so which you're going to see, items are only allowed to appear once. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do with respect to tuples is we're going to see how to create a tuple. Then we're going to see how to access values using access items or values in tuple using an index, using indexing and slicing. So you can see this is very similar to what we have done so far. Tuples work with indexing. If you want to access a single item from a tuple, you can use an index. If you want to access multiple items from a tuple, you can use a slice. Then we're going to see how to change a list into a tuple. Then also we're going to see how to change a tuple into a list. Then we're going to see how to find the length of a tuple. Then how to repeat a tuple, how to make a tuple longer, how to check for membership to a tuple, how to copy a tuple, and also how to delete a tuple. So these are our objectives as far as tuples are concerned, and getting you started with this data structure which is known as a tuple. So what is a tuple? So in Python, basically a tuple is a collection of items. That's what it is. The difference between a tuple and the lists we have looked at is that you cannot change the items in a tuple. That is a major difference. You can't change, once an item is in a tuple, you can't change it. An item cannot be deleted. You can't change, you can't delete. Okay? The other difference is, how do we denote a tuple? We use these two parentheses. And of course, if you've got multiple values in a tuple, like in a list, you have to separate them using a comma. So this is what a tuple is. It is a collection of items that cannot be changed. You can make it longer. The change we are talking about here is you can't go in a tuple and delete a single item from there. Or you can't go in a tuple and modify an item from there. Is this clear?
Yes.
All right. Rachel?
Yes, it is clear.
Okay. This is just basically a special kind of a list. This is a very special kind of a list with some this thing of you can't change things. Okay. So you can have, like we did with the lists, an empty tuple, or you can have a tuple with one value, one item, or you can have a tuple with multiple values. So let us see, how do you create a tuple which doesn't have anything? Basically, we are talking about an empty tuple. So for you to create an empty tuple, this is how you do it. You just put these things, these parentheses, then you run it. There it is. Then you want to ask Python what this is. So you give these two parentheses to the type function. You ask the type function what is this. The type function tells you this is a tuple. Okay. So these parentheses, the two of them, when you use them to enclose data, then you form what's known as a tuple. There is a difference between creating a list with one item and creating a tuple with one item. When you create a tuple with one item, after the value of the item, you put a comma. Is this clear? This is for a tuple. When you create a tuple with one item, after the value, you put a comma, like this, in this case, 10, then you put comma there. If you don't put a comma there, then, okay, looks like things have changed in Python. Python watches. Let me see what happens. Maybe it still works. Yeah. So you see, that's the difference. So what we have, if you don't put a comma there, what you end up having is an int, not a tuple. If you put back the comma there, fine. Then if you put a comma after the 10, then you run it. Now it tells you it's a tuple. Is this clear?
It's clear.
Okay, so a tuple, if you're making a tuple, then your tuple has got only one value. After that value, you need to put this comma there. You can also create a tuple with more than one value. In this case, the values in your tuple have to be separated by commas, just like in list, like that. Then you get this guy, you give it to the type function, you ask what this is, tells you it's a tuple. You can have more than two items in your tuple, like in this case, with these numbers: 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19. So you can have a tuple which is quite large. Then you check what this is. The fact that you have increased the size, does it change the fact that it's a tuple? No, it's still a tuple. Is this clear?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, got something to say, Brian?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry?
I'm saying it's clear.
Okay.
May I have a question?
Yes.
So yesterday I was trying to practice. I was trying to practice. So now when you look at where it's saying check the data type, check the data type of those numbers that have been given. That one, it's, let's say for example, if this is empty, it's me who's supposed to type that, right?
Where?
This one, create a tuple with multiple items. That just that sentence. Who is
Yes.
supposed? Will it be there or it's my item?
No. These it's me who put them there.
Okay.
These things are instructions. They are not Python. Is that clear?
Pardon?
These things says check the data type. These are instructions. It's not Python. Python is
Oh.
what's in this thing which we are playing here in the cells where we're saying type.
Oh, Python is just what is there.
Yes,
The
these
cells.
things we're saying in the cells we're saying type. That's Python. This
So-
other stuff is
so
not Python.
So now when you are making these same ones, you have to go on text to type this, create a tuple with multiple items.
Yes, I have to type that.
Okay.
There is a
Then
way.
now
If
you
you
want to command,
if you want to make something like this, you have to press on text. Have you seen what's there? It says add text.
yes.
Add text cell. Then after you press on text, you can type whatever it is you want to type. But if you want to see how I did this, you double click here. Have you seen?
Okay.
You double click. You double click. So you see, I added a hyphen. Then I say check the data type. Then this is how I did whatever I did. Then after you finish the typing, then you press here. Have you seen there where it says close markdown? So when I do this,
Where?
when I do this, when I type whatever things I've typed here,
Yes.
the output is this one this side.
Yes.
So when I type these things here, this is what it looks like. This is how it comes out. When you finish typing, can you see where it says close markdown editor here?
Yes.
You press there. So the thing is, if you want to type something, for example, like here, how did I do this? Okay, you want to find out how did I do this? You come here. You've seen this pencil thing here
Yes.
where it says edit.
Yes.
You click on edit. Then it will show you how to do the instructions, the text instructions.
Okay.
Like this is how I did it, and this is what the output looks like. So you can also practice doing this. Say, oh, do this, but that is not Python. Is that clear?
Yes. So now, how about the stars and the commas, the hyphens?
That's what I'm saying. If you want to see how I did it, that's how I did it.
Okay.
Yes. I can't teach that because it's not Python.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Very clear, sir.
Yeah. The Python is what's here. These things where we are going to play here. That's Python. That's what I'm supposed to teach you. If you want to learn how to add text, you can just add. You press there, then you type something. It's fine. Then you see how I did some of the things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's
Okay.
clear.
All right. So you can add, once you create a tuple, you can store your tuple in a variable just like we did with lists. For example, this tuple, this is a tuple of prime numbers. These are prime numbers. Okay? These are prime numbers. So I create a variable, prime numbers, then I store these tuple in there, like that. We've seen how to do this with lists. Prime numbers, then I assign to this variable prime numbers, I assign this tuple. There. Then I print out prime numbers now. This is what I get. Is this clear?
It's clear.
Yes. The reason why you want to store something in a variable is because your tuple might be very long. The other thing is you don't want to repeatedly type something. So if you store it in a variable with a very, very nice name, it becomes very, very convenient for you to work with. Okay, then you can check the data type of prime numbers. It's a tuple. So you have succeeded in storing a tuple in a variable. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing I want to tell you, I tried out this thing today in the afternoon. You can actually use your phone to practice. You just go to Google Colab. You go on Google. You search Google using your Google your Google your browser. Then you search for Google Colab. Then Google Colab is going to come just like this. Then it will give you this and that. Then you start practicing. You add a code cell, you add a text cell like that. You keep on adding this and this. Then you can practice. Okay. So we have got every opportunity to practice, try out things. Okay. The next thing is accessing items in a tuple. Now, you can access items in a tuple just the same way as you access items with a list, using indexing and also using slicing. So here we want to access the first item in the tuple prime numbers. So for us to access the first item in this tuple prime numbers, the first item is 1. For us to access that, we have to provide the name of the tuple, then square brackets. Inside the square brackets, we provide the index, which is 0 for the first item. Then we run this. You get 1. If you want to access the last item in these tuple prime numbers, we know that for you to access the last item of anything, the index is -1. So we say prime numbers, then enclose index -1, then you get your last item, which is 19. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so basically you can access items in a tuple the same way you access items in a list. You can also do a slice. For example, here, we want to get the third item all the way up to the 6th item. I think 5th, 7th, somewhere there. The point is you can do a slice, and your slice comes out and you slice the tuple. So you can do that. So basically, you are allowed to access items in a tuple the same way you access items in a list. Normally, for you to come to a conclusion that you are going to create a tuple, usually you start with a list. You add items to a list, you remove items to your list. Once you are happy with your list, then you say, this is going to be my final list. Okay? Once you have your final list, that final list, you can easily change it into a tuple using a function called tuple. If you have a list, like in this case, I create a list, numbers, and this is the list of numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. I create this list numbers. I print it. Okay. I check the data type of numbers. It's a list. If I use tuple numbers, what's going to do is it is going to copy the list. Okay? Tuple is going to copy the list. Then after tuple copies the list, it's going to convert the copy into a tuple as follows. So you can see here the same numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 11, the same numbers here but converted into a tuple. What actually has been converted into a tuple? If we print numbers again, we see that numbers has not changed. Numbers remains unchanged. Numbers is still a list. So what got changed into a tuple? Like I've been saying, what gets changed into a tuple is a copy. This tuple function copied the list numbers, then it changed the copy. That way, numbers itself remains unchanged. Is this clear?
Yes. So, like the examples we were looking at yesterday, let's say cars. So if you say tuple in brackets cars, it it would mean that it's going to create a tuple of cars, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
it's going to create a tuple of cars. So, if you want to permanently change this list of numbers into a tuple, we know that this thing, tuple numbers, creates a tuple. This is the tuple which is created. You need to store this tuple back in numbers. Is this clear? If you want to permanently change the list numbers into a tuple, then you need to store, we know that this bit, tuple numbers, we have seen here, tuple numbers gives us a tuple. We need to store this tuple, which is going to result from this, back into numbers. When we do that, good, then we print numbers now. Numbers becomes a tuple. We check the type of numbers, the data type of numbers, we find that it's a tuple. Is this clear?
Yes.
You use this tuple function. You use the tuple function when you have a list you are happy with it. Say, okay, fine, this is my final list. You don't need to remove anything. You don't need to modify anything from this list. You don't need to add this list. Okay? Once you are happy, you've got your final list. This is a final list. Then you can change that final list into a tuple using the tuple function. That way, it will not be possible for people to change that list, to delete things from that list, or to modify things from that list. Is that clear?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes, like right now, we have our tuple function, right? Our tuple numbers, right? Here it is. Sometimes you want to say, okay, fine. Yeah, these are prime numbers. Yes. But they're not the only prime numbers, right? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not the only prime numbers. There are other prime numbers. So, there is always a possibility that even after you've made your tuple, you might want to remove things from there. You might want to add things to that particular thing. Basically, you might have a change of heart, but you cannot modify, you cannot delete things from a tuple. The only structure you can modify things, you can delete things from is a list. We know in a list you can change things. In a list you can delete things. Okay? So if you want to change, if you want to make changes to your tuple, what you need to do is you need to change your tuple back into a list. Is that clear? You can change a tuple back into a list by using this function, the list function. Are we clear?
Yes.
And the other thing I want you to note, the name of the function, list, tuple, print, type, they give you an idea of what the function does. The name of Python functions, Python methods, these are often functions and methods. They do specific things. They give you an idea of what this particular piece of thing does. Is that clear? So in this case, the list function, we use the list function to convert tuples into lists. So here we have printed that. Then we check the data type of numbers. It's a tuple. Can we convert numbers into a list using lists? Yes, we can. Let's see. Here, list numbers. This is what we get. So it's actually possible for you to change a tuple, like this one, numbers, into a list. Again, this is not the original, because the original tuple itself has not been changed. What you have here, what lists gives you, is a copy of the tuple which has been modified. So list, like tuple, makes a copy of numbers. Then after making a copy of numbers, it modifies it into a list. So if you want your list to permanently change, then you do this. The same thing you did with tuple. Lists, numbers, then whatever this list numbers is going to give you this. That's what you have here. List numbers gives you this. It gives you a copy. Then this copy, you store it back in numbers. Like that. Then you print numbers. Now numbers is a list. Then you check the data type of numbers. It's a list. Is this clear?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
We don't want anyone left behind because you have to remember what I promised you. There are labs you have to do. Those labs have to be done by you, not by me. So you have to understand how this language works. That's the most important thing. You need to understand how to speak to your computer. So where you're not clear, you need to let me know. Otherwise, once you get lost, it will be very, very hard for you to catch up. We can find the length of a tuple the same way we found the length of a list, using the length function. If you still remember how we found the length of a list using the length function, you can find the length of a tuple. Yes. So here, I print prime numbers. That's what it is. Then I want to get the length. I use the length function. So I say length, len. Then in the parentheses, I give it information, the name of the tuple. So it tells me, okay, my tuple has got 9 items. Is this clear?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure you are seeing that the best thing about Python is everything looks like English. Everything looks like English. So as long as as long as your English is okay, you can figure out things out. And yeah, some things are not exactly English, but you notice that it works along English things. Okay. You can do a repetition. You can repeat something. Remember how we did the COVID thing when you multiplied the variable when you started in the first class? When you multiplied the variable COVID disease with COVID times the number?
Yes.
You can do the same thing with a tuple. For example, prime numbers. We can multiply prime numbers times 2. But you have to multiply using an integer. So when you do that, like in this case, what you get is a much bigger tuple. Okay? Starts from here. That was the first one. Then again it starts up to there. So it gets it kind of like you double the size of your tuple. Okay. Any questions on multiplication or repetition?
So on repetition, can we arrange it?
No, you can't. Maybe, but let me see. What do we have? Let me add a code. No, I don't think so. Let me just do that. Yeah. The other, you can try. You can try on your own. If the multiplication thing can be arranged or not using the sort method, but I don't think so because tuples don't have sort. Okay. Yeah. You can check for membership if a particular item is in this tuple. How do you do that? We use the in and not in. For example, I want to check if it's 4, if 4 is a member of prime numbers. So I say 4 in prime numbers. If 4 is in prime numbers, I'll get a true. If 4 is not in prime numbers, I'll get a false. So in this case, 4 in prime numbers, I get a false. You can also do this slightly differently. You can say 4 not in prime numbers. If 4 is not in prime numbers, in this case, I'll get a true. If 4 is actually in prime numbers, I'll get a false. Do you see this? Have you seen this? Yeah. Now, this is introducing something which you're supposed to be aware of. They are items, they are words, they are English words in Python which Python will give a color, blue. Like in this case, small English words which Python is going to give a color blue. Those words which Python gives a color blue have got special meaning in Python. Is it clear?
Yes.
So you can't use those words for anything else because Python already uses those words for something else. And those words are what are known as keywords. Python keywords are given a color of blue. For example, in, not in. So this combination checks if something is not actually in there. And this sounds very much like English. Okay? Is that clear? So if you want to check for membership, you can use in or you can combine not and in, like that. 7. 7 in prime numbers. True. So 7 is actually in prime numbers. Here, 7 not in prime numbers. This gives you a false. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the big difference between tuples and lists. It is the value or the item, the value of an item in a tuple. You are not allowed to change the value of an item in a tuple. Tuples don't behave like the coronavirus. They are immutable. They cannot be changed. Is that clear?
Yes.
So here, we'll try to do this experiment. We access the last item in the prime numbers. We get that the last item is 19. So we have managed to get the last item. We want to change. We try to change. We attempt. I'm saying try to change because I know it's not going to work. We try to change the last item in the list prime numbers. We want to change it to 43. When we do this, we run that. Already you can see Python brings out its red pen, say there's something wrong with this. And it tells you there's an error. Says tuple objects does not support item assignment. You cannot change the value of an item in a tuple which is at a particular position. Is this clear?
Yes, it is.
You can't change the value of an item in a tuple at a particular position. Not allowed. The other thing which is not allowed is, apart from changing, is you are not allowed to delete the value of an item in a tuple. You can delete the tuple, the whole tuple. If you have to delete something, you're allowed to delete the whole tuple. What you're not allowed to do is to change values in a tuple or delete them. For example, here, the first item, get the first item. So the first item is 1. Then we try to delete, using the delete function, we try to delete, here delete, the first item in the tuple. When you try to do this, again, we are told, Python brings out the red pen, say there's a problem with this. What kind of problem is it? Type error. Tuple object does not support item deletion. So these are the two major differences between a tuple and a list. You are not allowed to change the values in a tuple. You are also not allowed to delete items in a tuple. Two differences. Are these clear?
Yes.
Okay. However, there's something you're allowed to do. You are allowed to make your tuple longer. You can extend it using the plus sign. You can extend your tuple using the plus sign. For example, we print out our prime numbers. There. These are prime numbers. Fine. Then you can do the following. If you do this, prime numbers plus another tuple, when you do this, prime numbers plus this tuple which doesn't have a name, using the plus sign, when you do that, the result is going to be a much larger tuple. That's what the result is going to be. Prime numbers, a tuple plus another tuple, the result is an even larger tuple. So you are allowed to add items to a tuple. Whether you want to add one item, you want to add two items, or you want to add multiple items, that's up to you. However, if you want to make this addition permanent, you want to make this addition permanent, you need this whole thing here, this prime numbers plus this, you need to store it back in prime numbers. You need to store it back in prime numbers, because right now, if I do this, if I say print prime numbers, print prime numbers, I run this. You see, this is what prime numbers is. Prime numbers has not changed. Okay? What's this now? Yeah, prime numbers has not changed. So, if we want to actually save these changes so that our tuple becomes even larger, we need to store it back in prime numbers like that. Carry out this operation, prime numbers plus whatever this is, then store the result back in prime numbers. Then now we print prime numbers. And we get this. So now prime numbers has increased. The number of items in prime numbers has gone up. Are we clear?
Yes.
All right.
I'm sure Brian is having problems with it.
Sorry?
I'm saying I'm sure Brian is having problems with his mic.
What's happening?
No, we just at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Because whenever a mic is on, as if Mr. Sion is again speaking in the background.
Okay. All right. So the other thing you would want to do is probably you want to copy you want to make a copy of a tuple. Now, remember when yesterday when you're trying to we said for you to properly copy a list, you need to use a slice. However, when it comes to a tuple, you don't need a slice. You just do the normal copy thing. It works very well, as we're going to see. So here, for you to copy a tuple, you just use an equal sign. Say, the copy is going to be copy prime numbers, then the actual tuple is that. So I copy prime numbers into copy prime numbers. So I end up having two different, when I do this with tuples, I end up having two tuples. One prime numbers, the other one copy prime numbers. here. So I have with this. So I've made a copy. And how do I know that these are actually two different copies? Well, I work with this copy. So I've got copy prime numbers, then there's actually prime numbers. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to delete this copy prime numbers and see if it actually affects prime numbers. Now, for you to delete a tuple, the whole tuple, you delete the whole tuple the same way you delete a list, using the delete function. Then you inside the delete function there, you put the name of the tuple. So I print copy prime numbers. Then this is the copy prime numbers. Then I delete copy prime numbers. I delete copy prime numbers. Then I try to print the deleted copy prime numbers. So Python tells me there's a problem with this name copy prime numbers. What's the problem? Name copy prime numbers is not defined. The reason why it's not defined is because you have just deleted it. So copy prime numbers no longer exists. It has been deleted. Then I print prime numbers. Prime numbers still exists. Do you see that?
Yes.
Rachel, do you see this?
Yes.
So this shows us that copy prime number and prime numbers are two different tuples. Okay? For us to achieve this result with a list, we needed to use a slice. If you remember very well what we did yesterday or the other day, we needed to use a slice to properly copy the list. Any questions so far? Is that what you've done? Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is zipping. You know, like the way a zip works. If you have a sweater, right? That's what this is. How do you zip lists? So you've got a bunch of lists which are related in a certain way. Then you want to pair their values into tuples. How do you do that? For example, let's look at this example we have. Now, if you have to zip lists, there's a function you use called a zip function. Again, like I've said before, you look at the name of a Python function, it gives you an idea of what it does. In this case, this zip function zips some guys, okay? Like the way your zipper works. Is that clear? If you've got something which has got a zipper, the way your zipper works, it puts things together. This row and that row, then you zip them. So, what do I have here? Well, as you can see, I have created a list, provinces like Southern, Western, Lusaka, Central, Northwestern, Copperbelt, Eastern, Mchinga, Northern, Luapula. So basically, these are provinces in Zambia. So I create this list. Okay, I print the list of provinces, but I also create another list. I create a list of provincial headquarters, province headquarters. I'm not sure if I think I've got a problem with Southern Province. I'm not sure what the provincial headquarters is, and also what the provincial headquarters for Mchinga is. I'm not sure, but anyway. So for Southern, I guessed Monze. I don't know whether it's Choma or Monze. It's Choma.
Choma.
Okay. Let me change it. Choma. Then for Mchinga, I guessed Impika. Which one?
I think it should be the same speaker.
It's Impika? Okay.
I think so.
All right. Okay. So each item in this list, as you can see, the first item is Southern. Then the first item in provincial headquarters is Choma. So basically, the index of the province and the index of the provincial headquarters are the same. Next, second item, Western. Then I've got Mongo here. Then here I've got Lusaka. Then I've got Lusaka. Then here I've got Central. Then I've got Kabwe, Northwestern, Solwezi, like that. So that's what I've done. So basically, the province and its provincial headquarters, they have the same index. That is how these lists are related. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So, what do I do next? I zip them. I say zip provinces. This zip function, I give it provinces, I give it provincial headquarters. So I want it to create tuples of a tuple of Southern and Choma, a tuple of Western and Mongu, a tuple of Lusaka and Lusaka, a tuple of Central and Kabwe. That's what I want to do when I'm doing a zip. So I do a zip, then the zipped, whatever results from doing this zip, I store it in zipped. Then I check what is it I've created. What is the zip thing? It tells me, oh, zipped is a zip object. It's a zip thing, right? Now, whatever this zip is, I want to change it into a list. I use the list function. Now, the list function actually works very well. It not only works on changing tuples, it also changes other objects. Like, for example, this zipped thing here, this zipped thing we have here. So the list object, the list function, I give it zipped. Then the outcome of this list is going to be some kind of a list. I store it in zipped list. Then I print zipped list. This is what I get. I get a list. As you can see, it starts with a square, that side, and it ends with a square this side. But inside here, this is what I get. This is what I get. Southern Choma, Western, I get tuples, Western Mongo, Lusaka, tuples, Lusaka, Central, Kabwe, Northern, Solwezi, Copper Belt, Ndola, Eastern, Chipata, Machinga, like that. This is what I get. This is what we mean by carrying out a zip. When you zip lists, what you end up with are tuples made up of values corresponding to the index. So all the items in the lists you're zipping, you can zip more than one list. Here I just zipped two lists. Okay, you can zip more than one list. Maybe you would have said language, for example, the predominant language spoken in each of these provinces or in each of these places. You could have said Tonga, Lozi, Nyanja, all those Soli, Kaonde, all those things. We could have done that. So we could have created another list which contains language. Then we could have zipped them. So what the zip thing really does is it bundles together all the items which have the same index in the list which have been zipped. Okay, so these are the first items. Southern is the first item, in the province list. Choma is the first item in the provincial headquarters list, like that. So it bundles things together like that. Is that clear?
Yes.
So that is something we do quite often with tuples. They are good for this, for zipping information. Okay? After you zip your information, the other thing you could do with a tuple is you want to unpack the information. There's something called unpacking. For example, again, I like to choose examples which make sense to us, things we are familiar with. Okay, so here I've created a tuple of the people who have ruled Zambia, starting with the first guy, Kenneth Kaunda is still alive. Frederick Chiruba, second, number 2. Levi Mwanawasa, number 3. Rupia Banda, number 4. Michael Sata, number 5. Edgar Lungu, number 6. Why have I put these guys in a tuple? Because the order in which these guys have come is not going to change. Edgar Lungu is not going to become the first president, or Levi Mwanawasa becoming the first president. It's not going to happen. Okay? So if you have a piece of information where the items can't change, the order in which the items appear is like that, it's not supposed to change, like in this case, our presidents, then you can create a tuple. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, so I create this tuple, then I print presidents. Here they are, as you can see: Kaunda, Frederick Chiluba, Levi, Rupia Banda, Michael Sata, and Edgar Lungu. I check the type of this tuple, of this thing. It says it's a tuple. Then I check, I do some other things. How many do we have? How many people have ruled the country? 6. Okay? Now, here is the interesting bit. You can, all these guys in a tuple, these guys, Kaunda, Frederick Chiluba, Levi, each of these items in a tuple can actually be stored separately in a variable of its own. This is what's known as unpacking. Each of these items, these names of these guys in this tuple, we can actually store them separately in a variable of their own. And that's what and this is how it's done. So I start with first, the first variable. That's where I'm going to store Kaunda. Then I put a comma. Second, this is where I'm going to store Chiluba. Then I put a comma. Third, this is where I'm going to store Levi. Then I put a comma. Fourth, this is where I'm going to store Rupia. Then comma. Fifth, that's where I'm going to store Sata. Then comma. Sixth, that's where I'm going to store Edgar. Equal president. You do this. So you basically, what you're doing is you are unpacking. It's like you're unloading. It's like maybe there was you were carrying a big katundu. Then now you have reached your destination. You're the transporter. Now you're giving people, say, oh, Ichi has got your name, get. This one has got your name, get. This one has got your phone number, get. You are unpacking. Okay? So you can do the same thing with tuples. You can unpack tuples. You can unpack the values in a tuple into separate independent variables. So I run this. No complaints. The next thing I do is I want to print first name. You see what first name is? What first name gives me? First name gives me Kenneth Kaunda. Second name gives me Frederick Chiluba. Third gives me Levi Mwanawasa. Fourth, Rupia Banda. Fifth, Michael Sata. Sixth, Edgar Lungu. This is what's known as unpacking. You can unpack the items which are in a tuple into separate variables. The key is that the number of variables you're unpacking into needs to match how many items are in your tuple. Is that clear? Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so again, it's 19 hours. We don't want to start a new topic So we're going to end here. However, as you might have noticed from your emails, I also sent you another thing, which is known as Python sets. So you can try to have a look at that, because that's what we're going to look at tomorrow. I don't want to overload you with information, especially information which is not related to whatever it is you're looking at. So now that we have added a new information, we want this information to settle, so that tomorrow we look at Python sets and how they are different from the list you've looked at and the tuples. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, going forward, if we've got so much information to look at, we'll go up to 1930. Okay? If we can finish the information we are looking at by 19 hours, we'll stop there. We'll not introduce anything new. Is that clear? So that you can try to have your 1 hour, normal 1 hour class. Otherwise, your attention will be carried away. Then you will stop understanding things. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on this? Tuple business?
I think for me it's quite clear. It's just a matter of practicing.
You need to practice. It's a language. So if you're not practicing, then your ability to talk with the computer will still be poor. You need to practice. It's a language. And if you want to practice, like I've said before, you come there, file, you say open new notebook. There, you say open new notebook, and then it opens. Just a minute. Stop. Yeah, you start there, then you practice. If you want to add something code, if you want to add a text thing, here they give you a text, you type here. This is where you can say print something, print what, print variable, whatever it is, radius, and the result of this print variable radius is here. Then once you're happy with whatever you have done, if you want to put those things, if you want to make this board, you can select it, you can do a selection, then you click here, board, like that. Have you seen what it has done? Hello?
Yes.
You have seen what it has done, huh? That's how you make something board. So you can say print. So you can use these. If you want to make something italic, you do that. Oh, sorry, it doesn't done properly. If you want to make something italic, so you here, this is where you put your inside here. You put your italicized, say, variable, like that. Then it comes out like that. So you can see how something is going to come out there. Okay, then once you're happy with whatever it is, okay, fine, it says print variable radius, then you click here on the pencil. You're telling Python, okay, close it, then there. Now, this thing you have here, print variable radius, you can move it up. Right now it's at the bottom, so you can't move it down. You can use these arrows, up and down arrows, to move it up or down. I can move it up like that. But I don't have a variable radius. Okay? So what do? You create another text. You can say, fine, I want to create variable. I'm trying to show you how you can do this without complications. Create variable radius. So create variable radius. Okay, fine. I'll select this. Then I click there. Okay, fine. Okay, it looks good. I'm happy. Or maybe I'm not happy with this C. I want to make it a capital. Okay, now it looks like this. Create variable radius. That's good. I'm happy, so I close there. I want to move this up. Again, there, create variable radius. Then I have got this thing here. Then I want to move this where I can create a variable radius. I say radius is equals to what? 15. So I run that. Now, first of all, it's connecting there. So this is how you're supposed to use this thing for your practice thing. It's connecting there. It has connected. Then here, I want to print radius, but I don't have a cell. You need to print radius. So I click on this one, code cell, insert code cell below. It does that. Then I say, okay, print. Then I'm going to do something which I have not done. I'll say radius. Radius is, then I'll put a comma at the end, radius, like that. Then I print it. Radius is 15. Or I put another comma at the end there. I say 15 centimeters. So I run it. It says radius is 15 centimeters. Is this clear?
Yes.
So this is how you go up. This is how you go about creating the instructions, doing the Python, creating the instructions, doing the Python. And eventually, because you are just learning, most of the time you tend to put things in separate things. But at some points, you need to put everything in one thing. Okay? That's where you create something called a Python program. And of course, you can change the name here, the name of whatever it is. You can say, okay, fine, print radius. You can say print radius. Radius. There, print radius. That's the name of your thing. So this, once you have that stuff, it's good. You can save it. You can say save. Or after saving it, you can, what else can you do? Down here, you can download it. Because this thing is on a Google computer. Remember, Colab is owned by Google. So it's on a Google computer. Okay? So if you want to download it to your computer, you come here, you download like that. You click on download. Then it will tell you where to save. Then you do that. Okay? Are we clear?
Yeah, very clear.
All right. So let's, yeah, Brian, you good also? Okay, so let's,
Yes, I am.
yeah. So basically that's how this Colab thing works. And this is what I want you to use, because it does not give you any trouble with everything. Basically, Google has everything you need to run Python. Okay? They have everything you need to run Python. They offer you storage. You can, when you say save, you see why it's saving. It's saving on your Google Drive, which means, no, here it's, have you seen what it says there? Notebook stored on Google Drive. It means you can access the notebook on your phone. You can still continue working with Colab on your phone, on your laptop, from anywhere. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, so let's stop here. Tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, I'll send you an updated. I think there's something I still need to add, one or two things I need to add to that Python set thing. Yeah. So once I do that, I'll work on it. I started working on it today. So once I think tomorrow I can work on it in the morning. Then I finish. Then we can have the class in the evening on Python sets. Then we get rid of the Python sets. Then we introduce other things. So basically what you are looking at now are something called containers. things which allow you to hold a lot of data at once. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So see you tomorrow. We're done here.
See you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.